All righty, here we are, Megan Marini coming to you live. Okay, not live. So I want to share really the basics of communicating with your guides. Now, this is something that might scare you a little. You might be like, whoa, that's like another realm I don't want to mess with. But the reality is that there are other dimensions and what I would consider and talk about as more real dimensions than this one. Call me crazy. But this is, at the end of our lives, going to be something that we look back at, almost like our opportunity to perform, to enact our truth, to fulfill our desires. That's what I see Earth as. But on the other side, on the other realm, we will reconnect with all of our relatives, right? Those who have passed that are in the light. There are other dimensions at work that are supporting the highest evolution of the planet right now. And I know how out there it all is in sound, but it's true. And working with your guides doesn't have to be something that's really far away from you. It can be something that becomes an intimate practice where you get to become familiar and you understand, almost like having a group of friends, very much like having and even different groups of friends. Okay. And I'm happy to explain more about this because I know that it is a really fascinating space. I'm not going, we could go off on tangents about like astral travel and past life regression and all the cool things. But really, I wanted to sort of distill how simple it is to talk to your guides. The number one thing that you must know is that there's sort of rules to the game, right? The number one rule is that they can't help unless you invite them in. So the simple act of asking for help, right? It's like, we're so self enrolled in this culture. It's so nice to ask for help, right? Like, whose ego is so big that you think you're going to do it alone and you can do it better than anyone else and blah, blah, blah. It's like, nah, man, nah, chill it out. Let's get help, right? Take that weight off your shoulders. So asking them for help then allows them to provide you with help. So you need to be humble enough to ask. You need to know to ask. And then you need to make the ask as fun, as simple, as loud and bold, or gentle and tender as you want. And I want you to play with that, right? Play with the ask. I'll do another video on how to pray. A friend of mine I talked to yesterday, she was like, I didn't know you could pray like that. She still talks about this time we were praying in Rhode Island. I just launched into prayer and she was like, oh my goodness, you're hilarious. I'm like, yes, my relationship with spirit is very lively, funny, like hilarious. And when we think of spirituality as this austere, sterile, you must behave, that's a bunch of bullshit. That's humans that have put spirituality into a box, which it is not. It is very alive, spirited, sensual, sexual, all of these things, right? So I'm happy to talk more about that too, if that's something you want to rant on. I like a good rant. Okay, so what else? So within the first one of really asking for their support. Well, no, actually, let me move on to the second one. So the second one is really about learning the way you receive the information. So number one, ask for their support. Number two, you have to be ready to receive their support. Support comes in all ways. It can come through anything, but you have to be open and looking for it. So again, it's back to like humility and sort of reverence for the relationship, just like you would undertake any beautiful relationship with the greatest lover of your life, right? You're like, oh my God, I finally met my match. Like, I've met my match in this world. And I'm like, I treat it as the most important relationship that I'll have in this life, right? Um, yeah, and that's how I think about my relationship with spirit. So I've learned to know that the gifts, they come from all different ways. And it can be, and this stuff. It can be a song on the radio and you're like, oh my goodness, you're kidding me. And then the phone rings and it's that person. And there's a miracle right behind that. And knowing that, right? And being like, oh yeah, there's a sign. I just asked for a sign this morning. There it is. I'm going to listen, right? That's number three. So we want to stay aligned with spirit in so much that we can take that action. So we're listening and then we're taking the action. And the action to me is that that deep reciprocity of, hey, I asked you to do something. I asked you to do the dishes. I really needed you to help me. And you come out of the shower and you're like, oh my God, he did the dishes. Oh, it's so loving. It's so loving. You're held, right? So you want to reward that information that comes by taking action. So it's the same with integration. When you do that deeper delving work, you come out of this non-ordinary state and you have all this information, all this beautiful nuggets and wisdom, and you really want to take it and put the rubber to the road, right? You don't want to just be like, oh, this lives as some memory from the past. It's like, no, this is actually fodder for my life. Does it mean I need to go to the gym 3 times a week? Like, it can be as practical, right? Does it mean I have to stop stressing out about silly things? Like, I need to stay balanced or sane or whatever, all that stuff that we have to do. That's some of the stuff that comes from spirit. They're like, no, you have to do that first before you're going to get the big yummy thing behind it. So, yeah, so that's it. Ask for their support. Understand the way you receive, because we all have certain gifts in receiving. Again, we can receive always, all the time, but we also have certain gifts that we're really good at. Like some are sight, some are sound, feeling, right? And then, yeah, really staying aligned in an action. Okay, so yeah, I think that's it. I'll leave it there and let me know if you have any questions.